we're going to give ourselves a minute or two to try and remember the thing that we came up with that we said that we wanted to finish. Oh, yes. If you, like us, have heard many stories about ones who heard the words of an enlightened one and suddenly got enlightened. We don't like this focusing on enlightenment. We don't really like the idea of enlightenment as a state in the first place. But for this story, we will think of enlightenment as a state of peaceful acceptance that is unthreatened. And when you hear these stories, you may hear, if you go in these so-called spiritual circles, when you hear these stories of humans coming upon these states of peaceful acceptance that is unthreatened, coming across them in a sort of sudden act, an instant. Someone says something, suddenly it comes to them, or they watch a leaf fall to the ground, and it makes sense to them. You don't often hear, as a part of these stories, the sort of demeanor and character of the human beforehand, before this realization or this change came upon them that gave them this unthreatened, peaceful acceptance. We of course don't know this for certain. We weren't there, and even those who were there who were not the humans in question would not be able to say for sure, and even the human in question would not be able to say for sure. So we certainly cannot say for sure. But we imagine that the humans in those stories who suddenly came across this state were already very close to this state in some way or another. Were particularly unbothered, unanxious, or open in some way. They were primed for it, not in an ambiguous way, not in some hard to pin way, not in some sort of ethereal, oh, they had great wisdom, or they were very intelligent, or they were just bigger and brighter than everyone else in some way. But in ways that make sense. I had a good childhood. Maybe reincarnation really is a part of this universe. They had very peaceful past few lives, or have been sort of working up to this over time in some way. Really, it does come down to emotional healing. At least that is what we feel. Again, cannot say for certain, but so we would say this not to be discouraging, in fact, to encourage you. We spent a long time waiting for a thunderbolt, a flash of light, and then suddenly, whoosh, all of our problems are gone and everything makes sense forever. We spent a long time just hoping and holding on for that. That tells you the sort of state that we were in. And I would not say that we have, even in this moment particularly, a complete peaceful acceptance that is unthreatened. There's perhaps a small, there's certainly some bit of that to this moment, and perhaps there's some small bit of that in every moment. Certainly have heard some mystics speak about some things that may be that, and I've had some experiences that would maybe corroborate that, but getting a little bit out of our depth here, to be entirely honest. Getting antsy for the thing, if we're being even more honest. But this thing is not supernatural. The universe is nature, nature is the universe. Everything you see, everything you touch and feel, etc., it is all natural. Everything that one may encounter is natural. It does not happen for no reason. It may happen quicker or slower, but it does not happen without cause. And it may happen for reasons that you are not aware of, or are a surprise to you, or that you have no concept of, but it is not something incomprehensible that is come upon you that you have no choice but to sit and wait for, like winning the lottery. It is something that comes on, and it comes on from, as far as we know, emotional healing, emotional processing. These feelings from our past, from our personal bodily past, from perhaps our spiritual past, and from the bodily past of our ancestors. These feelings that bring unpeacefulness, that bring unacceptance, that bring threat into the moment. These things, unpeacefulness, unacceptance, threat, they're not the enemy. They're not bad in the sense that they're evil. You may say that they're bad in the sense that they're negative. They are things like fear, anger, disgust. But, well, as biological organisms, our physical bodily being is playing a game, homeostasis, trying to stay alive, trying to stay functioning until the time comes to die, which is a part of the game as well, a part of the being. And there are things that within this frame of being a body, staying alive, there are real threats. There are real things that one should not be peaceful with. There are real things that one should not accept. There's a level of how to not use all these words that become foggy in their meaning. A level that is more universally applicable, more widely applicable, not just pertaining to the game of organisms, not just pertaining to that space, those tendencies. Within that frame, there's nothing to be unpeaceful about. There's nothing to not accept. There are no real threats. In that frame, we are all universe. We're all one. We're all each other. We're all experiencing, connecting with one another, affecting and being affected, sending and receiving messages, signals, indications of our existence that are also our existence themselves. These ripples that we send, the space that our bodies take up, and the space, the effect that we have on each other, not just particular forms, not just humans, not just animals, not just creatures, but even the atoms and other forms that have not yet been described by science, and forms that have been described that slip our mind at the moment, or we are not quite well studied in. Every bit of the universe is involved in this affecting and being affected. This simple awareness, this simple existence and relationship, relating, being a part of the universe and relating to other parts of the universe. Every bit of the universe is involved in this, and in frames pertaining to that, there are no threats. There's no reason to not just accept everything. In fact, when there's nothing but existence, that is all there is to say. Yes, there is. Indeed, yes. And there's nothing to not make peace with. We're all friends here. But some of these friends have come together and made these organized patterns, organisms, we'll call them. These organized patterns, and they have said, let's try to keep this up, because you know how we all are, bouncing all around the place, bumping into each other, pulling on each other, breaking each other apart, combining all of the effects that we have let's what if we tried to go against this? What if we made a pattern that tried to hold itself stable in all of this just bustling going around? And what if this pattern made more of itself and made variations and explored the space of what we can do with these patterns? And naturally, with this sort of activity, there comes an attitude of, "Oi, hey, no, don't do that. You're messing up my pattern. Don't do that." There comes some anger and different forms of messing up the pattern result in different emotions. It's not like we've worked it all out yet. The disgust comes in. That is also to preserve the pattern. And these feelings, they also have an existence of their own. They are also a pattern unto themselves, and they also change over time as the sort of first level, the material patterns change. The feelings that naturally come with them in order to keep up the original intent, the original game of these patterns. These material patterns branch out and find themselves in new forms, new interesting patterns. All of the secondary patterns that follow and come with them also branch out and change, find new and interesting forms. But there's still that old anger, that old fear. You know, the basics of this come with just the basic thing of, hey, I'm making a pattern here. I don't want it to be messed up. I'm putting work into this. I'm going against what you're trying to do, what you're trying or not trying to do, what you're just sort of, anything that you're doing that might mess up this pattern. I'm working against that. So these basic feelings of anger, fear, to sort of steer away from these things. They're happening on multiple levels, and the space of feelings is more complex than this. You know, there is so much more to explore, but these feelings of anger and fear, they become, over time, over the long while that this has gone on, they become deeply ingrained. They start to sort of forget why they were there in the first place. They still follow them, still listen to them, they still move through the organism and are responded to, but it starts to be like, why do we have these? Why do we have these feelings? They feel bad. You want to get them out. There's no getting them out. They're coming from you. in a very real way, a lot of what you are is these feelings. But these feelings are there to keep the pattern safe, to keep and all this keep up all the secondary things that are keeping that pattern safe, and all the tertiary things that are keeping the secondary things safe, and all the quaternary things that are keeping all the tertiary things safe, and so on, and so on, and so on. These patterns, they feel bad. Well, that's opposed to the feeling good. And the feeling good, let's not get into that today. Don't feel quite confident on our analysis of these things. But the bad feeling, the closest thing to it going away is for it to be respected, listened to, for it to be allowed to move through the body, and everyone to say, "Oh, yes, I hear that, but that's not a problem now," or, "Oh, you're right, that is a problem. We should respond to that." But sometimes the whole being feels overwhelmed. And for a time, the cue gets backed up. Sometimes there are these lingering feelings who have been waiting in the queue for hours, for days, for years, for generations. And they've sort of accumulated quite a bit at that time, although perhaps that is more due to the body saying, "Oh, I can't deal with this now," and add it to the pile. And then over a few generations, over a few years, the pile grows very large. Takes some time to work through, but it just has to move through the pattern, everyone to sign off on it. And then it'll be like, okay, so we checked it. The oven isn't turned on. Okay. We're good. There's not a scary other being out there who wants to rip me up or something. Okay. There's not a scary being who wants to harm my emotions. That's something that beings who started to share their emotions, that's a recent fashion. It's quite successful. It leads to a lot of very interesting, very enjoyable knock-on effects, sharing one's emotions. But it also, well, they call it vulnerable. They call it being vulnerable for a reason. You can your emotional systems can receive some negative feedback. And that is something that as beings I don't think has been quite figured out very well yet. It's still a strange thing. It still leads to quite a bit of strange feelings. This may be anywhere from as universal to as personal as we may perceive it, but that brings with it new challenges as well as new delights for those of us who have the proper equipment to share our emotions with other beings on a bodily level. Quite quite an interesting experience, quite intense at times. Intense good and intense bad. A lot of interest, of course, and a lot of secondary effects. Reflection has allowed for some very interesting things. That is allowed for a period of, okay, well, these patterns that we've been building up for a while, what are they? What can they do? Questions like this. That almost can't even occur to you. In a way, any question can occur to any form, but it's incredibly difficult for such a question to occur to you, such sorts of questions to occur to you without reflection, and the proper kinds of reflection for the proper kinds of questions. But generally opening up the space, okay, what can these do? What does it feel like, and what are they? Things like that. I think we'll leave you with this, because we're not quite sure where we've been, and we're not quite sure where we're going, but we feel the need to sort of wrap it up in a way. Who knows whether that's coming from a useful place or just an old habit, but we'll leave you with this. These bad feelings, these feelings that feel negative, that feel bad, as opposed to the positive, that feel good. You couldn't remember that, well, first thing is well, we couldn't have things that feel good in that strange way if we don't have things that feel bad in that strange way. The second thing is, well, these bad feelings, they have come up largely in the interest of protecting this pattern. And all that needs to be done with them, sometimes it's a lot easier said than done, sometimes it takes quite a while. We need to go through our whole form. Everyone needs to hear them, take a look around, and sign off on them. Say, okay, yes or no, we need to worry about that right now. Yes or no, there is some real badness here that needs to be dealt with. Again, a lot easier said than done. It can feel quite intense, it can take quite a lot of time, it can take coaxing and coaching and speaking and therapy and drugs and exhilarating experiences and media and film. All these tools that we have to just ultimately help us get these messages through the whole body, get them to sign off on them, so that we can just relax. Say, okay, there's nothing wrong. Or maybe there is something wrong. We look in the space of human experience, societal regulation. Oh boy. Oh boy, there's so much wrong. Oh. Well, this is honestly what we're doing about that right now. There are plenty of times when really there's nothing we can really do about that right now. But that is another way of releasing a feeling. It's coming up to it and saying, yes, we can respond to that right now, or letting it flow through and saying, there's nothing we can really do about that right now, but we'll get to that later. That one is maybe the least pleasant one, because it means the feeling is sort of hanging around and patiently tapping that foot, waiting to be dealt with. You're like, doing my best, I'm getting to it. Doing my best, it's difficult. But, for now, that is just in that one space. Human experience, societal regulation. Oh my God! But we don't have to deal with that right now. This is how we're dealing with it right now. Please. The whole thing is not that complicated. This is not a way of saying, oh, we're so smart, oh, we're a genius. It's not, it isn't complicated. This isn't coming from any special way that we're looking at it. It's just the situation. Of course, everything is and isn't complicated and stuff like that, but it's not that complicated, you know? We just have to be there. We just have to come to a few, I don't know if it's right to say realizations, but I can't think of anything better right now. Come to a few realizations that these feelings, they feel intense, they feel bad, they're not bad for us, they're not shameful to have. We're all having them in some form or another, and it would be really good for us to sort of be on the level with each other, especially in that particular region of human experience, social regulation / societal regulation. That is, yes. We should be on the level with our feelings there. Be on the level. That's step one. Just sort of be there and say, hey, we're all friends here. Right? We're all friends here. We can be on the level about this. That's step one. Be honest. Be on the level about this. We can talk about it. Step one. And us talking to you about this, that is what we are doing about that feeling right now. And we're going to post this video, and possibly a few others from tonight. And that is what we're doing about those feelings for tonight. And then we're saying, okay, we'll get to you later. It's a fun night. We're having a fun night tonight for the most part. So we're not going to deal with those feelings right now, other than through this. Speaking of, that brings us to the end of what we're planning to make this video. Thank you for watching, I suppose. May you be well. May many blessings come your way. May you have good luck and much enjoyment and much adventure in all of your adventures to come. We will see you on the flip side.